So Ian, you're recently back from Africa. You're a regular visitor to Africa. What's the Wood Foundation been doing there?
Well, I guess it's all about the family philanthropy. And that started a long time ago in South Africa. 3 months there as a student, working in a hospital, a local hospital. And for the first time as a young person, understanding that the world wasn't just this little horizon we're on here. So for a long time, there's been this build-up. We were very much a global company, so I spent a lot of time overseas. We got the opportunity to get real benefit from working in these countries. But again, I saw all the really tough hardship, particularly in rural areas in a lot of the overseas countries, not just Africa, the overseas countries. So I guess it was always there, we should try and do something. So we have done something. Our philanthropy is venture philanthropy. It's very business-orientated philanthropy. It's about helping people to help themselves. And we went and did some market research, business approach. We chose the tea industry, partly because the tea farmers in East Africa, which we're working in, were being badly exploited by the tea estates that were there. And we managed to find various ways to start helping them. We actually eventually managed to get the tea estates on board. So we're now, after about 8-9 years, working with about 60,000 smallholder farmers. We own 2 tea factories, which in time we will pass across to them. We're also now planting a lot of new tea for some of the smallholder farmers. And the fact is, we are definitely, after a difficult period, we are definitely having a big impact on their lives. And for example, in the last 2 trips, we had a kind of, it's called a baratza, kind of party that they wanted to have to say thank you. On each occasion, we had 5,000 farmers came along to that. And they spent 4 hours singing and dancing and giving us testimonies about how genuinely how their lives had altered. So we are having a positive impact. So that's what takes me to Africa.
Some charities are maybe reticent to invest in Africa, of concerns over corruption. Does that concern you, or is it something you deal with?
I think the key thing is we have people on the spot. Now, we've got a very, honestly, my trip to Africa is the same as any business trip I've had in the past. We've got a very good management team. They're really good at looking after things. Of course, there are going to be issues and problems. We will not entertain corruption in any way whatsoever. So we're very careful with that. We have got the potential. We're close to the farmers. We know the key things that bothers them and doesn't bother them. We know how to change their way of thinking and the mindset, and we've managed to do that.
There was the whole charitable sector has been rather struck by the Oxfam scandal. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think the same as everyone else, frankly, pretty horrified. And it really was a scandal. Quite hard to believe that such a big, reputable, and Oxfam are huge, they're one of the very big players, had managed to get so many things unacceptable. My concern is that we absolutely mustn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The various regulators, they're clearly making their views known on some of the things that should and shouldn't be done to ensure that can't happen again.
You've made your money from the oil industry, and way back early in your career, you were saying to administrators, we need to build on this. Do you think the UK and Scotland has built on the oil economy we had?
I'm not going to get involved in heavy politics, but having said that, the decision was taken to maximise the opportunity and to maximise the recovery of oil and gas. And I think that's been done very effectively. I mean, I think we have done a very good job. We've taken 44 billion barrels out of the ground. And I think we took a step change 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I led an investigation on maximising economic recovery. And I think that has, with the help of a lot of people, that has, if you like, gone on to phase 2 in the oil and gas industry now, where we've maximised what's been easy to get, or easier to get. We're now very, very much into the difficult period. And there's a big focus now on cohesion, on collaboration. The last 3 or 4 years mean that we've been a lot leaner and fitter because of the significant pressure on the oil price. We've developed really a very important new technology centre, the OGTC, Oil and Gas Technology Centre. So we are now more focused on using the technology. And also there's more of a realisation that decarbonisation is important. So we will need fossil fuels. I mean, 77% of our energy requirements last year had to come from fossil fuels. And I say had to, it wasn't a choice. We had to because that's where the gap was. By 2035, it's estimated down to 66%. So it's improving, but it's still fossil fuels requirement. So one of the things we're trying to do is how can we decarbonise that? How can we do it with less carbon? We are having some success. Our emissions right now are 16% less than they were in the year 2000. So we are managing to find ways to reduce the emissions. But the fact is, it's extremely difficult to get the energy equation squared without fossil fuels. I mean, even in Africa.
Does that concern you, though, the fossil fuels and the impact it has? What's your view of global warming?
Well, it must concern everyone. I mean, everyone's got some responsibility in this. I mean, frankly, one of the biggest challenges, which we don't do well with, is conservation of fuel. We are just not good enough at reducing the amount of fuel that we use, and that's everyone's guilty of that. So, of course, I'm going to answer your question by saying I am concerned, but you're going to have to tell me, unless we can move faster in the application of renewables and other fuels, how's the old lady sitting in her attic going to manage to keep her light on? And
are we not moving fast enough in that direction, do you think?
I think we're now moving a lot faster than we were. There's a step change in that. You know, if you talk to Shell, BP, Total, Statoil about what they're doing in energy, the first part of their answer will be about renewables. And they are doing a lot of helpful things in renewables.
What does that mean then for the future of oil, the oil industry then, if the focus is moving to renewables?
We're in a particular situation in the UK and Scotland. I mean, we're producing 1.6 million barrels a day right now. In 30 years' time, that's going to be down to 250,000 barrels a day. So we are in an inevitable decline in our oil and gas production. So it's not a question of taking a decision that says we're going to cut back on it. It is going to happen with depletion. What we're trying to do in the meantime is maximise the recovery, decarbonise the oil and gas we're producing, but we're also through bodies like Opportunity North East, which I'm involved in, trying to do everything we can to broaden the economy. Partly maximising oil and gas, but very much food, drink, agriculture, fishing, tourism, life sciences, digital and entrepreneurship. We've got groups in the northeast of Scotland working on each of these to try and maximise the opportunities and frankly give Scotland and the UK, but particularly Scotland, the northeast of Scotland, a chance to work its way through what will be a very difficult economic adjustment. My interest is, what's the next generation going to look back and see our generation having done? We are the oil and gas generation. We've been very lucky and very very fortunate. I really think we have a major obligation to the next generation and the generation after that not to leave them with an unacceptable economic legacy.
And you think that's a serious risk?
Absolutely. Well, if you just, I'll say again, 1.6 million barrels a day down to 250,000 barrels a day. You can't get away from that. I mean, I've said to a lot of people, there's the graph, that's what it looks like. We cannot not do something.
And what do you see as the future for the Scottish economy?
I'm not over-optimistic about the future right now. And it's nothing to do with Brexit and other issues. I mean, we've got to go back to trying to create winners. We've got to go back to incentivising significant economic development, significant business development and progress. And there's a danger right now that we're kind of recessing into, I guess, what we had in the 70s and the 80s, which was, let's try and create everyone equal. You know, everyone's not equal. So you've got to ensure that people get equal opportunity. But you've got to have a model which actually allows the creation of wealth. And frankly, I'm an extremely lucky example of that. I mean, I am the North Sea oil generation, and we have done very well out of oil. To be fair, right now we're trying to do everything my family are trying to do everything we possibly can for the next generation, and in terms of worrying about humanity across the world. So, you know, we're trying to do our bit.
So what would you like your legacy to be, finally? Do you want it to be remembered as the man who built a hugely successful oil company, or as the man who is the philanthropist?
I don't believe the two are inconsistent. You know something, I honestly don't worry about my legacy. I guess I judge whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. I worry about the impact of not leaving the economy in decent shape for the next generation. Okay, so if you say that's the legacy I want to leave. Not how people see me, but how people see my generation and what we've done for the next generation. I mean, I think the philanthropy is a completely natural counterpart to the creation of wealth. It's just what I said. We have been lucky enough to be able to create wealth, and therefore it's now appropriate to see what we can do to help other people.
Sir Ian Wood, thanks for joining us in Scotland tonight.
Thank you.